Greetings, my name is Chamomile and this is an exploration of the entire galaxy sector by sector. Today, we're talking about the Eucer Sector. There is allegedly a planet called Zuliria in Eucer Sector, which is home to the Zulirians. That is all the information anyone on the entire holonet has on them. I'm really starting to question my rule of including every supposed species homeworld in these videos. The Eucer Sector is along the Prelemian trade route and formed the border of Republic space and the territory held by the Tion hegemony at the time of the Tianese War, when the hegemony was officially called the Honorable Union of Tion and Decevro, and also there was some other border war going on that we're not going to get into. The reason why Maldrude Sector, just down the Prelemian trade route, gets so many resorts and shopping centers and other touristy, hey, look how cool we are places calling themselves Huronam and Astagone, after the two lost throne worlds of Zim, is because Maldrude was the Tion side of that border, and people had a tendency to think of Tion's border with the Republic as the furthest extent of their empire, although in retrospect, it makes much more sense that Zim's lost thrones were on the border with the Hutt Empire, his primary rival, not the Republic, which didn't even formally exist during Zim's reign and was considered a distant upstart, no more important than the Arcanus Regency at the time of the Tianese War. The Republic and the Tion hegemony both recognized that they should combine their might to oppose the Hutt Empire, the dominant power of the Outer Rim, and the most powerful polity in the galaxy at the time, although bear in mind the galaxy was split between 100 nations back then, so that doesn't mean they were in control of anywhere near half the galactic population or anything. Regardless, the Republic made diplomatic overtures, but Tion viewed the Republic as a nation of grocers, rank amateurs at war, and thought they could subjugate the Republic easily and turn their industry and population against the Hutt Empire by force, without the need to make any compromises with the mostly democratic core worlds. Anyone who studied any part of history, whether or not they studied the Tion cluster specifically, can tell you how this song and dance ends. It turns out that you don't need to be educated from birth in the art of war to figure out how to dig a trench and stay in it when the enemy starts shelling you, which is the main skill required of soldiers in a war. All it takes is guts, and while the first 3 to 6 months of combat experience makes a hell of a difference to how much guts you've got, after that, you've either got it or you don't, regardless of whether you are a landed aristocrat hunting in the wilds of Amarin or a grocery bagger on Lantilles. After a few years to get that crucial initial experience all through their armed forces, the Republic was every bit as hard-bitten as the Tion hegemony, and now the Tianese were starting to learn that your military traditions don't really count for shit when the enemy still has artillery shells, and you don't. Eucer Sector bore the brunt of the initial Tianese invasion, and got hit hard in those early years when Republic soldiers were building up veterancy. Okator 8 was famously torched, but planets like Cortilia Major and Uthtara were also in the line of fire. The damage wasn't as extensive as the kind of ruin that the Sith, Hutts, and Galactic Empire got famous for. Buildings were destroyed, but there was no long-lasting environmental damage. Okator 8 was always kind of a shitty marginal world, so, there wasn't a whole lot to ruin in the first place, if we're being honest. The Tion cluster ultimately lost that war, but lost narrowly enough that they were able to enter the Republic under a negotiated surrender that made them easily the single most powerful sector in the Republic, all the way through to the Clone Wars. They learned the lesson of the Tianese War super hard, converting throughout the time of the Republic from an agrarian, traditionally feudal aristocracy to a heavily industrialized, neo-feudal corporate aristocracy. And that meant that when the Clone Wars rolled around and the Tion cluster became the capital of the Confederacy of Independent Systems, the Tianese were way better at invading the Republic this time around. Eucer Sector was completely overrun, and the CIS were halfway to Coruscant by the time the Clone Army intercepted them in the Lantillian sector and started pushing them back up the Prelemian trade route. If the Republic didn't have a secret clone army, the CIS could plausibly have stormed the core before its legendary industry could retool itself to make tanks and warships. The Republic did have a clone army, though, and the CIS forces overextended with the expectation that they would only be facing underprepared planetary defense forces, lost pretty much all the ground that they took about as quickly as they took it.